Start. I hope this didn't. Okay, good. All right. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday, where, as you can see, we've got a slightly different view this time. I've been showing off my other rack every single month and other times, and now it's time for the other rack. Well, okay, that one's the main one. This is the secondary rack here in my kitchen. And welcome to my kitchen here on this Wednesday evening, where once again we are doing a live YouTube video, as like a lot of uh, cooking channels on YouTube have been doing on Wednesdays. You know, we hold a cast iron video on Wednesdays, although I'm thinking one of the few channels that do a live video regularly here. But hey, we've somehow been managing to do this now for going on 4.5 years. It's hard to believe that, but nonetheless, that seems to be true. I've somehow managed to survive that long. And it seems that folks here have been kind enough to show up here on my channel as well on a regular basis too, which is one reason why I keep doing these, because it's a lot of fun having you folks here in my kitchen. And thank you very much to everybody who has been kind enough to show up here on this lovely Wednesday evening here in the beginning of February. And hello to Pip Gorn, and hello to Fatty Meats and Val's Black Cats Rules. And hello to Kenrick, new person, I do believe. Welcome to our little chat here tonight. Hello, JIR Finishes and Cynthia Wesley, Val's Black Cats Rules, Greg Hart, Pat Z, Rich Qualls. Quite a few people I recognize here. We've been here that long, like RT Scott, Corey Clark, Huggy Bear, Rocket Caver. And well, thank you again. Yes, thank you to Cynthia. And hello, One Pen Man, who I have seen before, but thank you again for showing up here, and Sam Ostroff, and I could probably keep going on and on, but yes, again, here it is, the first Wednesday of the month, which this time it's February, where we have a week and a half until Valentine's Day. Yay! And that, I felt, was one reason why I wanted to do this video here in my kitchen, showing off my kitchen cast iron rack rather than the usual cast iron rack that I've been showing every month. You know, as I said, give everyone something of a change of venue here, especially since, well, a lot of people do baking for Valentine's Day. You know, the cookies and the cakes and all that kind of fun stuff. And also the way that they have regularly been releasing heart-shaped cast iron pans of all kinds, especially in the last few years or so. This does seem to have become quite the fad here on Valentine's Day, I would say. I mean, this particular one here is one of those Walmart cookie skillets that we've seen, that they've been selling around the holidays, especially around Christmas. But of course, we have seen this one here on Valentine's Day. And in fact, okay, I admit it, I just picked this one up at Target. Yes, indeed, another heart-shaped cast iron pan. And my reasoning for that is, actually, I hope to be having a little bit of company this weekend, which means that maybe on Saturday morning or so, I'll be able to make some heart-shaped pancake for breakfast. However, especially since I'm hoping to have at least 2 people here this weekend, you really can't use only one of these and cook one of those tiny pancakes at the same time. So I had to get a second one just so that I'd be able to make 2 at a time and actually have the pancakes done in a decent amount of time. So, but nonetheless here, and hello as well to everybody. And yeah, great gift idea as well. I would think so as well. I mean, yeah, I mean, this is indeed the time of year where they do these special Valentine's pans, especially this one that Lodge Cast Iron only released about a year ago. Am I getting is my camera greasy? Perhaps I'm not sure if the picture seems clear, but yes, this is indeed the heart-shaped. Oh, okay. Oh, from the front. Oh, I know what that is. All right. Got a notice from my security cam at the front door, but there's just this loud car or bike or whatever it is passing by. Anyway, this is in fact the Lodge heart-shaped. Actually, I better move this over here, I think. There we go. This is the Lodge heart-shaped cast iron pan that they first started selling A little earlier than last year, in fact. Yeah, I do believe this is greasy. I wish I'd noticed that before tonight. Anyway, the one that Lodge has been selling now for probably, actually, as I said, since Christmas of before last year. They released it before Valentine's Day, so a lot of people had plenty of time to get it. And of course, it is still available on Lodge's website. I'm not exactly selling this myself. I'm not getting a commission or anything like that. But nonetheless, folks who know about this definitely know that this is the time of year for the Lodge heart-shaped cast iron pan here. All right. Second pan. Why don't you get about 6 of them? Well, the main reason why is because this thing costs $10. Yeah, because this actually has a brand on it. This is actually Reese's rather than just the generic ones that they sell at Walmart. So they hiked the price a little bit, and I'm not about to spend $60 on these little things. That's the main reason why I didn't get 6. I suppose if I should really, if I come across these in the cast iron hunt, if they're cheap, I should probably pick up more of them as well. But nonetheless, yeah, Lodge has those at Cracker Barrel right now. Well, that's also good. Flipping a cake in a pan shaped like that is going to be tough. Well, the way you do these actually is you don't flip it in the same pan. What you do is you actually put a second cast iron pan out and heat that up next to it so that when your batter is done, when your batter is ready to be flipped, you simply flip it onto the other pan, except the other pan is not shaped like this one. But nonetheless, that's how you do those pancakes. You simply flip it over in that way and finish the rest of it off on the other pan. I do actually have a couple of videos about that. In that, over the last couple of years or more, I've made videos showing cooking pancakes in those Star Wars cast iron pans and that Spider-Man cast iron pan I have that as well. That shows how that's done. Make a heart-shaped cookie. Yes, I've done that before, and that's certainly something to do this year as well. You can also make a heart-shaped stew in that. That's certainly true. Yeah, in the little Dutch oven, which in fact I also have right here. I don't want to drop the lid. But yeah, this one I've actually had for several years. I paid $20 for this one at Bed Bugs and Beyond, and but since then, again, especially in the last few years or so, these heart-shaped Dutch ovens have gotten really popular around this time of year. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before that, but there was a whole rack of those being sold at TJ Maxx. I saw. There's one example. So, heart-shaped meatloaf. Well, you could certainly do that too, as well. I mean, there's no reason why not. It's a Dutch oven. You can make pretty much anything you want in it as well. Um, yeah, the heart shape changes the taste. Well, fortunately not. Well, not exactly, Cynthia. I mean, I am a bargain hunter. Yes, I don't deny that. But really, it's just me because, well, just that. I like going out of my way looking for bargains, and I spend a lot of time doing this on the treasure hunt. So between that and the fact that I've had my cast iron collection for like going on, it's going to be 15 years as of when this fall. So we've just passed 14 years of this. So I've had plenty of time to build a decent collection here. So I mean, you know how it is when, as far as the hunt goes, the treasure hunt, namely that most of the time, really, on any particular day in the treasure hunt, I mean, it's really rare that you find something absolutely exceptional and outstanding. I mean, on a good day, you might be able to make yourself a good score in some way or another. And though all those little good scores, they do tend to add up. Like when I was at Brimfield just last year, for instance, and I found this Le Creuset, Le Creuset. I believe this is like a number 6 or so sized enamel skillet there. Which again, little by little, these types of scores they all add up, and the result is, well, we've got a collection like this. And that's why, once again, this is kind of like an ask me anything almost anything type of video here. In that, folks are free to ask questions. I'll do my best to answer, and everybody else is also free to ask questions as well. I think I can move that up a little bit. I mean, in regards to, you can ask pretty much any questions you like in regards to cast iron, including all the stuff that I have displayed here on my rack. As I mentioned, this is different from the rack that I have over there in the living room, for instance. So there are different pans here, and so if anybody wants to ask questions about anything like that, please feel free to do so. Hog Wild Cast Iron Restoration. I just found out I won a BSR Sportsman Grill with deep. Wow, holy cow! Who was having it? Then I won a rare 1384 Wagner Chef Skillet. Holy cow! When you're saying winning, do you mean that you won an auction on eBay? I mean, those would be incredible contests if people are giving away those kind of things. So yeah. Question: what's your take on the safety of assorted brands of cast iron? Well, I'm not sure what you mean by safety. In that, really, almost any brand of cast iron is safe to use, as long as you, of course, you're careful with any kind of cast iron. Simply because cast iron, really, no matter what the brand is, whether it's vintage, whether it's modern, whether it's made in the USA, whether it's China, they're all basically made of the same stuff. They are processed cast iron. And none of these that I know of contain any kind of chemicals or toxins or lead or anything like that that's going to be bad for you, including ones made in China. So, of course, you do have to take safety precautions for any one of these where you are making when you are cooking in cast iron. But in that respect, the brand really does not matter so much. That's why I do not mind cooking in a vintage Griswold cast iron, a modern day Lodge cast iron, or for that matter, Asian made cast iron either. I have no hesitation of using on these kind of pans. So I certainly hope that helps as well. The little square one hanging from there, Wagner or Griswold? That is in fact Griswold, although I guess you could call it a Wagwald, in that even though it has the Griswold logo on it, this is the Griswold square egg skillet that they actually made during their days at the Sydney foundry, the Wagner foundry in the 1960s or so. This one in particular, I really have for nostalgia purposes more than anything else, in that I originally got this for my mom because my grandmother had this exact square egg skillet. And as we were all growing up, of course, every so often she would make square eggs for us in that pan. Ha ha ha. I'm going to make square eggs. And we really didn't know what she meant until she actually made it. And my grandmother then passed on, and her cast iron was actually acquired by one of my cousins. And my mom never did have the chance to inherit any of my nana's cast iron. So for my mom's, I think it was her birthday one year, I actually managed to find this square egg skillet, and I gave it to her as a present. And then a few years ago, my mom passed away. So I ended up inheriting this back from her. So this really is something of a family heirloom. So yes, this is the you're asking. This is in fact the Griswold square egg skillet. David Craig, I have several Asian pans I cook in regularly. Yes, exactly. The enameled skillets from Target under the brand Figment actually say that they contain lead and cadmium. Really? Can you show me? Can you actually show me that? I would very much like to see the reference, whether it's on the label or on the website or what. If you're talking about the California Proposition 65 declaration, for instance, it's well known that they put that on just about everything, even going to Disneyland. All right. So Hog Wild, I had a really nice shallow-sized Taiwan pan that I used all the time until it was dropped and the handle broke. Ouch. Yeah, that's probably one of the greatest dangers of cast iron. Between dropping it on your foot or simply dropping it on the floor and breaking it, those are probably the two biggest hazards that you can have of cooking in cast iron? Well, that and burning yourself. That is. Is that your stove or waffle iron on the top shelf? Yes, it is. It's right here. This is, in fact, that Stover waffle iron that I'm still quite happy to use. And in fact, I could very well use it if and when I have company this weekend. So we could very well have waffles. Yeah, I'm actually quite glad that I acquired this because at least it also helped me to learn some of the history of the Stover waffle iron. Namely, that the Stover waffle iron is about the only piece of cast iron that the Stover company produced. They were more famous really for making bicycles and bicycle parts, yet for whatever reason, they also made those Stover waffle irons. And a Google Chrome announcement has blocked the chat. How nice. All right, let's close that out. Okay. My dad had one of those forever, but he dropped it a few years ago, and I've been trying to find one of those square skillets. Yeah, for some reason, those square skillets are really sold at a premium. I have yet to see those tiny little square skillets sold at antique malls for anything less these days than $40 to $50. It's got to be because of the Griswold name on it. That's really about the only reason I can think of. It's on the label, no California warnings. Go to Target and look. It's crazy. Okay, I would very much like to do so. I would like to see exactly what that label is on the Target cast iron pan that you're talking about. I will actually take you up on that. I'm not arguing with you or anything. I would just very much like to see it. Do you have a favorite brand? How about cast iron versus enamel? My favorite brand, I would say, and folks probably know here, would be Birmingham Stove and Range. For whatever reason, I've really had this fascination with the history of the Birmingham Stove and Range cast iron company. That plus their cast iron is wonderful to cook in. They're probably about among the best cast iron pans ever made. Plus, I think really the history and the mystery of BS&R had a lot to do with it. Namely that until they were discovered by the internet, BS&R cast iron was largely unknown. It was one of those hidden secrets of cast iron, and in some ways, it still is. Even though they're even selling BSR cast iron on eBay at high prices, it is nowhere as well known as, like, say, Griswold or Wagner. So. How about cast iron versus enamel cast iron? I love them both. Again, check out the videos I have here on my channel. And as you can see, I have a combination of bare cast iron pans and enamel cast iron pans. Just about all of my enamel cast iron is right here on this rack, though. I don't have a huge collection of enamel cast iron. I do my best to get use out of that, just like everything else. As you see from the thumbnail photo of this video, that's my cast iron rack over there in the living room, where definitely the majority of my collection is in fact bare cast iron. But enamel cast iron definitely has its uses, and especially for things like cooking, like say with heavy amounts of acidic, like vinegar and tomatoes. So those are really good reasons right there for owning enameled cast iron. Yeah. Don't leave me standing outside with a for sale sign on my little square. I got nothing for it, really. I just bought your video on 19th century, Red Mountain century overlap. Yes, an 8C at Goodwill. Nice. Oh, yeah, nice. Hey, in fact, my number 8 Red Mountain is also an 8C. I better check my collection and make sure you didn't actually take mine. But yeah, that silly argument about the overlap between Red Mountain and Century and BS&R, that is one of those things that it really, like, hardcore cast iron fanatics are arguing over that. It's almost like the difference between Marvel and DC, for instance, or the difference between Tolkien and Harry Potter. It's really, really, really important, or better yet, the difference between the Tolkien movies and the Tolkien books. For the hardcore fans, it really, really is so important that it can shatter friendships and cause ridiculous arguments. Whereas to the rest of the world outside, it's like, who cares? And while I am definitely in something of the hardcore camp myself, I certainly won't deny that, and I'm very interested in the differences between the Red Mountain series and the Century series. I personally think that there was indeed quite an overlap between the Red Mountain and the Century series, and it's this overlap really that's caused the vast amount of these arguments, most of which I am not really interested in taking part in. I have taken part in some of those discussions on Facebook, especially the BSNR Facebook group, which is one of my favorites. But I do my best really not to not to really get involved with any of the heavy and outright stupid arguments that are taking place there. David Craig, I also love BSR and I still find it cheap at yard sales and flea markets, but Florida may not be a great market for it. Well, there is that. But the fact that we can still find it cheap at flea markets and at yard sales also shows that BSNR has a long way to go and will probably never become the centerpiece of a collection the way that Griswold is. Number one, of course, because Griswold, has the Griswold logo right there on it. And of course, that is what the vultures and the vendors and the antique dealers and all that all look for. The ones who know nothing really about the details of history of cast iron, they just look for the hot names. So if they see Griswold, they grab it, no matter what it is, and stick in a high price tag on it. So no matter what it is, and which is a shame as well because the history of Griswold is as interesting as any other cast iron company. I mean, when you get into things like the Erie remakes, for instance, those who know that some small foundries, including Wapak, they use cast off Griswold patterns to make their own inexpensive molds for cast iron and in the early 20th century. And that's why you sometimes see Erie pans with very, very rough make and a gate mark on them. They're not counterfeit, they were not deliberately made to be sold as Griswold. But they are remakes, and they're not real Griswold, but they are interesting pans in themselves. And just like any cast iron, they are really, really good for cooking in too. And if you have one of those, go ahead and cook in it. And that's really about the best I can say there. So, hello, Janet Bautista. Good evening. The BSRs feel great in your hand. Yes, they do. But so do older lodges and Griswold. Yes, they do. There are differences between all of those vintage brands, and really, my love for BSNR is I can't even explain all of it. I mean, as I said, I'm also attracted to the history of the company or the brand, rather, as well as the fact that they are really good cookers. It's not just that. I mean, people get into the arguments between the difference between modern day rough lodge and earlier smooth Griswold and BSNR and lodge. But I have cooked on both of them, and I really don't have a problem cooking at all in my modern day lodge pans. And yeah, it's all in the wrist. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Love your short with the fine X and the number 9. Oh yeah, that little thing that I threw together just this morning or so. That was something I discovered shortly after I was given that Finex skillet as a Christmas present back in 2014 as well. I will never forget that because, well, number one, it was a Christmas present. Number two, came from a good friend of mine, Jeff Rogers, the culinary fanatic. So definitely that pan is quite is one of those ones that are near and dear to me, and I'm never going to get rid of it. The other thing about that Finex pan, I will say as well, is that it is my go-to pan for cooking steaks because it is one of the thickest and heaviest cast iron pans in my collection. As such, it holds heat wonderfully, and that is really, really a great pan for cooking steaks in. But I've mentioned this part before too when talking about the difference between expensive cast iron like the Finex or Stargazer or Field or Butter Pet, and less expensive cast iron like modern day Lodge, for instance. There is a slight difference, but it's very different. The difference is, like, say, you can consider the Lodge cast iron pan to be excellent quality, whereas you can consider the Finex pan to be outstanding quality. Both of those will cook great in your kitchen. And whether you feel it's worth shelling out all that money for that slight difference is really up to you. Because, in fact, I've been admittedly lucky. I can only call it lucky in the fact that all of my expensive cast iron was obtained in some way or another for either free or at an enormous discount. I mean, here, for instance, are my two brand new Lodge USA enameled cast iron enameled Dutch ovens, which go on Lodge's website for $350 each. However, at Christmas time, I told the story of how I managed to get both of them for a total of 50 bucks. It was a kind of a long story, and I told that, but it's only an example of I myself probably would not pay $350 for an enamel cast iron pot or $200 for a Finex cast iron skillet. That's me because I am a cheapskate. I would not have paid for my Finex pan, but it was a Christmas present and one that I'm very, very grateful for and one that I'm glad to own, not just because it's a Christmas present, but because I enjoy using it. So, so it's really different for everyone. So why does the cast iron pan have a yellow handle? Which one are you talking about? Are you referring to this? This is a Le Creuset enamel cast iron skillet that is enameled inside and out. And I found this one just last year at the Brimfield Antique Show, in fact. So that's why it has a colored handle, because it is, in fact, enameled. It is enameled on the inside, too. All right, let's get this back here. All right then. No, that's actually orange handled band light. Well, yeah, there is that exactly. Where and when did you find your small 6-piece cornbread skillet? This was a lucky find, and I found it at an antique mall in Tennessee. In fact, if I remember right, I found it on my way to the National Cornbread Festival several years ago. Oh yeah, Sweetwater. That's it, Sweetwater, Tennessee. Unfortunately, my understanding is the antique shops in Sweetwater, Tennessee have been kind of disappearing, I'm sad to say. But several years ago, when I visited that place, it was like a treasure trove of antiques. And this one, in fact, I managed to find there at one of the antique shops in Sweetwater. So yeah, this is one of those things I came across. Yeah, I knew I had to grab it. It wasn't especially expensive. So, and I was on vacation, so I felt it was worth paying a somewhat higher price for it than I normally would. I think I paid 30 bucks for this. I mean, there are times, unfortunately, when I succumb to temptation and get a cast iron pan that I really don't need, or maybe pay more than I should. Yeah, that's an urge that I've been doing my best to try to come to keep back from. TJ Maxx has the new Lodge enamel Dutch ovens for $170. Well, yeah, nice, Corey Clark. That is a good price, although it's probably not the largest one either. This is the 7.5 quart one. You might be thinking about the 6 quart USA enamel, but for that, that's actually not too bad of a price, I think. I hope he's okay. Very strange that he misses. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's hoping that he is doing all right. Right. Waffle irons, they are my favorite. They are a piece of art to me. On top of that, you can cook waffle. Yeah, that is the real bonus of cast iron, isn't it? So it's also great to have an antique that you can use every day. And in fact, using it will probably keep it in better condition than if you just simply store it away and hang it on the wall. Well, unless you drop it and the handle breaks, or it suddenly cracks from I don't know, I guess like temperature shock. Obviously, that's not something that happens very often, and I can only hope it doesn't happen anymore to any of my favorite cast iron pans. I mean, there's always that risk. Do you have a holy grail piece that you're looking for? You know, it's hard to say. I have mentioned a couple of times that there is an extremely rare BSNR piece that I am looking for and may never find for the rest of my life. And that would be the number 13. That's 13 Red Mountain Camp Oven, or arguably even the Red Mountain 13-inch um, spider skillet. That's largely because I have a lid for those particular for that particular size. I was lucky enough to come across a 13-inch BSNR Red Mountain Camp Oven lid. And obviously it would be really nice to have a pot that matches it. And I have indeed been on a lookout for that, and who knows, I might end up looking for the rest of my life. But of course, that's how the treasure hunt goes. So if there's anything I might consider to be a holy grail, it may very well be that, if only because, it would be really nice to have the bottom part. What's a holy grail? Oh, that's easy. A holy grail was that cup that King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table went looking for. That's when they ran into the castle, Castle Anthrax, and that's when they met, and that's when they fought the dreaded killer rabbit of Caerbannog, and then of course found the dreaded beast of Arg. Yes, the Holy Grail. Okay, yeah. Holy Grail would be the ultimate piece. Yes, exactly. That's really supposed to be the idea behind it. Yes. It's the type of thing that that people would really want to consider to be the one of those once in a lifetime finds. For a lot of collectors, the so-called Holy Grail of cast iron would probably be the Erie Spider skillet, which I think a lot of us have seen pictures of that. The number 8 size cast iron skillet from Griswold, with the Erie logo and an actual spider on it. That is, that's the one that they typically sell these days for what, $7,000 or more. The California Acorn Pan. Oh, you've got a good point there, Fatty Meats. um, it would be nice to own one of those just for collector purposes. I certainly would not deny that either. Yes. Would you ever write a book on cast iron? I don't think so. I don't think I really have the commitment to actually write a book. The closest I have to a book is my website, most of which I'm still in the process of rebuilding after I lost just about all of it last year. But what I have on my website, I'm quite happy about. And I do encourage people to visit my website, motomac.com, and see what you think. So, yeah, that highly unlikely found piece. Yes, exactly. That's why some people even consider the Wapak Indian head skillet to be like a holy grail, even though I've seen quite a few of those in over the years. They're not really that hard to find. Well, they are hard to find. It's not like we're ever going to find one unless we're incredibly lucky in the vintage treasure hunt. Yet, on the other hand, there are quite a few antique malls out there that have the Wapak Indian head, usually at a price of anywhere from $200 to $500. The Holy Grail was alleged to have been the cup used by Christ at the Last Supper. Yes, exactly. The search for the Grail was a genuine quest by some of the Crusaders in the Holy Land. Yeah, it was a legend. That, of course, can become a discussion in itself. But I mean, much like how they supposedly had pieces of the true cross or the Shroud of Turin. They're legends. But that's all I'm going to discuss here. Do you know how many types of the BSR fish fryers they made? They made essentially two types. Well, four types: the shallow and the deep. And then there was the Red Mountain shallow and deep fish fryer. And then there was the Century Series shallow and deep fish fryer. They only made them each of those in one size. So that was really all they made. They didn't, okay, the Red Mountain series did not have any lids. They made two, actually, several kinds of lids for the Century fish fryer. There's this photo that somebody put together on the BSR Facebook group that really covers every single type of their deep and shallow fish fryers, including all of those different lids. The number of lids they made are actually quite surprising. There was what they call the turtle shell lid, which actually had an oval or rounded top. And then there was the grill, and then there was the flat lid, some of which had a flat surface and a flat surface underneath, some of which had a grill underneath. And then Lodge, in turn, after Lodge acquired the fish fryer and the Sportsman grill, they produced the deep fryer for about 10 years or so before discontinuing it. And that's the one that I have in my collection as well, the Lodge deep fish fryer. Question: what is your preferred seasoning product, i.e. Crisco, lard, etc.? My preferred seasoning product is Crisco. I find it does well. And also seasoning with Crisco, especially if you're greasing off and wiping your pans off every day after use, Crisco, I find, can last for weeks, if not months, before you get to the point where it seems rancid, whereas other things like olive oil could go rancid within days. So that's my preferred choice. Corey, there was the original square shallow, second series, nope, handle shallow, shallow and deep, and there was a third handle shallow. Then Lodge made the flat handle version. Yeah, there was that. What they call the rope handle, the one that had the little thin handles, and then they flattened that out into their third generation. All right, I think that very expensive little lid, I think that little very expensive Lil Fid. I think you're talking about lids, but I'm not sure exactly. Oh, Lil Skillet. Yeah. Oh, yes, you mean the square skillet, I think. So. All right. What else do we have here? I don't mind questions at all from Valley S. And thank you for showing up here tonight. I'm just looking to see if I missed anybody else's. Would you ever write a book on cast iron? Well, as I said, I don't really feel I could commit to writing a book, I'm afraid. Let me see. What's the Holy Grail? It's biggest ones, waffle irons. Well, it doesn't look like we've missed too much, fortunately. So far, so good. I won those in a raffle on Facebook. Oh, wow, Hog Wild, you definitely have a stroke of luck going along. That's for sure. That one with the handle that looks like a stick. Handle that looks like a stick. Okay. I know I'm missing which one you're referring to, Cindy. I'm honestly not sure which one you mean. I have all three styles, but the Century lid only correctly fits on the pan it came with. Yeah, there is that. I have tried fitting my Century series or my Lodge series lid on my older Red Mountain fish fryer. It does not fit. Well, it fits, but it's not a perfect fit. It's good enough to cook on it, but it's not a perfect fit. Strong's Adventures. What are y'all thoughts on the new Lodge cast iron doing all the series? What do you think? Or do you think they will have a value in 20, 30, 50 years? It's hard to say. I mean, Lodge, especially over the last decade or so, has definitely been catering to the collector's market. There's no question about that. That's why they've been coming out with these series for everything. annual Christmas skillets, for instance, or re-releasing the Wildlife series, or their short-lived Made in America series. Um, it's hard. I am no expert at these things. I would hazard a guess that just because they have designs on them, they will all have some increased value. I don't know if any of them are going to become incredible collector's items, with maybe a few exceptions, just because of the circumstances that surrounded them. I mean, it's like comic books, and especially when they were doing all of those things in the 1990s with all of those fancy covers and everything, and then the market crashed, and then they all became practically worthless. It's only with certain circumstances that you end up with something that's a real collector's item. For that reason, I think there are a couple of ones that could very well be considered collector's items. And here's an example: the Grateful Dead skillet, which Lodge produced, I don't remember, what would you say, 1990s or so, 1980s? And in fact, that was a commission as well. Lodge did not produce it on their own. But obviously, those Grateful Dead skillets are collector's items because they're rare, as well as because they have an appeal to, well, deadheads, obviously, but all other kinds of collectors as well. However, as far as the modern day ones go, I might think the Walking Liberty half-dollar skillet might actually see some real value, because that is a wonderfully designed pan. It is much more elaborate than just about all of the other ones in the Cracker Barrel series, and the fact that it's based on a U.S. coin might help as well. Um, so even though we've got the Lodge, I mean, even though we've got the Buffalo Nickel skillet, and even though we've got a couple of others like like the American Seal skillet, I'm feeling like uh, the Walking Liberty one may very well be the breakout as far as collector's items go in the Cracker Barrel series. I did a video a few years ago about the Lodge Made in America series, the one that only lasted 3 years, 2018 to 2020. And I feel the 2020 Rosie the Riveter skillet will have some value because, again, because came out during the pandemic, and there's definitely real value about that. Just like, let me see. Well, of course, there's the United We Stand skillet that Lodge made for the, as the memorial for the September 11, 2001 attacks. Patriotic cast iron has always had some collector value, which is one reason why Cracker Barrel does those things every year. So in a way, I guess you could say you will be seeing, excuse me, sorry about that, getting some value from just about all of those Cracker Barrel skillets, but some more than others. I mean, for instance, some of Cracker Barrel's skillets, quite frankly, I felt did not have that great a design. They'd had more of a cartoony look to them. Like, for instance, the Mount Rushmore skillet, probably in particular. I'm not crazy about the design of that. Maybe it's the way the font of the writing looks cartoony, but that's just me personally. And I'm not sure if others would agree with me or not. You didn't bother getting the Wildlife First series? That was done yeah, at least a decade, maybe almost 2 decades before I got into this cast iron hobby. I completely missed that first Wildlife series. And I know all of those First series pans are collector's items for precisely that reason. Lodge produced them, but they did not intend for them to be collector's items. The second series, Lodge Wildlife series, of course, they definitely do intend to be collector's items. But I think for that reason, while they may indeed have some collector's value for them, I don't think they're ever going to be anywhere close to the worth of the original Wildlife series. Because again, that's how collecting goes. I mean, if you intentionally produce something to be a collector's item, chances are it's not going to be, with some exceptions, but generally no. Real collector's items are the ones that become that way really just from chance, and also being rare certainly helps. such as the Wapak Indian head or the Griswold spider skillet. Did we ever congratulate the winner of the Wagner griddle? Yes. Oh yeah. I know. Well, I'm sorry about that, Huggy Bear, but yes, JIR finishes. He actually did his own unboxing video the other day, and I linked to that. If you look at either on my Facebook page or on the community post section here on my YouTube channel, I linked to JR Finish's unboxing video of that griddle. I hope he does a video of him using the griddle. Lodge re-released the pineapple baking pan recently. Really? Oh, of course I got one a month before that. My luck. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess I should mention the Lodge bunt pan or the fluted cake pan in that for that reason. I don't know if it's ever going to be a collector's item, but cast iron bunt pans have been extremely rare, and they've commanded sky high prices for precisely that reason, because they're extremely rare. And in fact, when Lodge re-released the bunt pan or the fluted cake pan, that did not kill the market for those vintage cake pans, but it definitely drove the price down, because lo and behold, people can actually buy their own cast iron cake pan without having to pay through the nose for it. And I think that's a good thing. I think that because it's driven the market down to a more acceptable level. I mean, before Lodge re-released their cast iron cake pan, I saw people trying to sell cracked and welded bunt pans on eBay for $300, for instance. So, and now that there is an option to buy a modern day cast iron bunt pan, the vintage market has not gone away, but it's much more reasonable. You could probably find a vintage fluted cake pan or a bunt pan or cake pan for maybe around $100 in the vintage market. I've seen a couple of them myself at that price, for instance, and I would call that more reasonable as far as that particular piece of cast iron goes. Lodge every so often brings stuff out of their vault to repeat. Yes, they did that especially with the cake pan. You can buy them online for around $65. Got a vintage Lodge bunt pan a month before they re-released the new one. Oh yeah, yeah, and I can only imagine how much you paid for it, and you don't even have to tell us how much you paid for it. I'm so very excited. Oh, hello, JR finishes. Yes, exactly. Yeah, oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's probably the best thing to do with that. And yeah, especially because that Wagner griddle does have a mark underneath one of the handles that identifies it as being the modern day one. So don't try to pass it off as a vintage. I know you won't. The newer bunt pans have a larger capacity than the vintage pans. I have never owned a vintage Lodge pan. Um, I would think it is about the same size as the vintage pan. Um, I have seen a couple of really, really big iron bunt pans. We're talking the size of those are frankly enormous. But on the other hand, I do have a vintage bunt pan that is actually somewhat smaller than my modern day Lodge bunt pan. So you may very well have a point about that. Bo found at the beginning of my cast iron journey my wok. Saw and fell in love with cast iron. Oh, yes. Yeah, I've talked about my wok as well. In fact, I've used my wok in quite a few videos. I'll probably be using it again, well, I would say within the next couple of days or so. Don't need to see any marks to know it's not a real Wagner. Okay, if you examine it really, really closely, you can see some differences between that and the original Wagner. But on the other hand, if not for the identification mark underneath the handle, I think it could be easy to pass that off to most people as a vintage Wagner. Not that anyone would want to. It's been pointed out already that really that the cost of the modern day Wagner griddle is more than what people are selling the vintage griddle for. So I could see the texture in it. I might disagree there, Corey Clark. The Wagner griddle, as far as I know, did not have a polished surface. It did not have mill marks or anything like that. So my understanding is the texture is actually similar to the original Wagner. Yes, I felt they were appropriate to honor it. Okay. New bun pans have larger equipment. Okay. All right. My wok has never failed me. Yeah, so far mine has not either. I've cooked a lot of things in that wok, and I'm definitely gonna keep using it. I really, it's like that is one of my go-to cast iron pans for things like, well, stir fries, of course. You simply cannot do better than a wok if you want to do a stir fry. I mean that covers the vast amount of it right there and then. Uh, Going over the rack here. Okay. Yeah, I've got cornbread pans, several cornbread pans, more than I expected, in fact. The regular size cornbread pan, the smaller cornbread pan, corn stick pan, and the handy Dan corn stick pan, which was another one I managed to acquire as a Christmas present. So I still don't see how you warped your walk. Yes, I did warp my walk, in fact. And how I did it? Well, because I was an idiot, but also because I was constantly cooking on a on my electric stove at the maximum. I was blasting it to the maximum every time I used it, and I did that for quite a while before I really understood you don't have to do that. And as a result, I did indeed end up warping that that particular walk as well. So my walk is actually a spinner. All right. No one can reproduce the sand formula that Griswold and Wagner used for their molds. That's probably the case, yes. Um, on the other hand, modern day cast iron makers are certainly doing a good job of making their own cast iron as well. Bruntmore makes an excellent wok as well. I've seen some people polish the bottom of new large skillets. They claim the smooth surface is terrific once seasoned. Well, oh yeah, I am not a fan of polishing modern day cast iron Valley S, including modern day Lodge. I use all of my Lodge skillets in exactly the condition they were when they were manufactured. I have seen some videos of some people polishing their modern day Lodge skillets so smooth that they have a mirror finish. You can literally use it as a mirror. And the funny thing is that while they show the videos of that and they say, "Oh, look how smooth this is," I put an egg in it and swirl it around and everything. I have yet to see a video from anyone of one of those mirror polished skillets after several months of use. No one has shown that. I even put out a video asking about that, and some people commented, but I think I got maybe one actual video response to it. Some of those pans are way over polished and hard to hold seasoning. Yeah, there is that. There's the question as well, is that they're not really good. Is there anything brewing in the lye tank? And when are you going to do a lye tank reveal? Well, when the weather gets warm again. I mean, here it is, February in New York. So I'm thinking like maybe in about 2 to 3 months, I'll be able to do a lye tank reveal. I do have a few things in the lye tank, including a couple that I acquired on my birthday last year, if I remember. I believe there's a Wagner square skillet in there, and maybe a couple of others as well. But I can't even remember myself. We'll find out when the lye tank is opened up again, like maybe around March to April. I had a guest preheat my great aunt's chicken fryer on high heat. I had to hide my upset. It's bowed a little now. Ooh, I'm sorry to hear that, JIR finishes. My condolences. Mudbrooker stopped sanding at 50 grit. I'd heard that 80 grit is probably the best to do it, but that probably differs from one person to another. And never show that polished skillet again. Yes, exactly. Excuse me. Channel owners use those as giveaways. The videos are largely clickbait. In a lot of ways, they are. And yeah, I can say the same thing about my giveaways as well. I do that really to kind of get viewers and to get the attention, but also because I have a cast iron pan that I want to get rid of. Maybe I'm a little different from some folks in that way. Hogwild. When Wagner and Griswold were king, they used a finer sand that caused a lot of lung damage. Ouch. That's one reason cast is thicker and rougher now. I don't think I'd ever considered that, and that is certainly a good point right there. As well. Treatment of the factory workers, because yeah, I do understand how working conditions were in those days. It was, in fact, because of actual battles with the workers at that the Griswold family finally sold the company and actually bowed out of it. So the Griswold family stopped actually managing the Griswold foundry in around the 1940s or so. And I suspect, but I can't prove, that's one reason why people consider the small logo Griswold to be lesser quality or less valuable than the large logo Griswold. Even though the small logo Griswold is still an outstanding quality cast iron pan. Anybody who owns and uses a small logo Griswold will certainly agree with me on that one. That's why nobody's allowed to touch my irons. Yes, exactly. As long as it's good and flat, 50 or 80 will still hold seasoning. I meant giveaways of the mirror polish skills. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I will shy away from a mirror polish skillet for precisely that reason, because I wouldn't have any use for it. Okay. Rich Qualls. Does Lodge ever announce production designs ahead of production, such as the Walking Liberty? I don't think so. I can't recall a single time when they have pre-announced any of their products. It's like they announce it and suddenly there it is. The best I can think of was when they re-released the Bunt Pan for the first time. They did, in fact, give a little teaser a couple of months in advance. But in general, I have never seen them pre-announce what their design is going to be. I have no idea what the new Cracker Barrel skillet is going to be this year. I will find out at the same time as everyone when they premiere it, usually around maybe March to April or so. You have that long cornstick pan, 9-space. I don't have one of those. I've seen them in the antique stores once in a while, but I do not have one of those 9-stick cornstick pans. My understanding is the 9-stick cornstick pan was produced especially by Lodge, and they produced it especially for their number 14 size Dutch oven. Yeah, or camp oven, I should say. It was made especially to make cornbread in that particular oven. Yeah, mirror polish, just hit it again with 80 grit. Yeah, why not? It's ruined anyway, right? Might as well make it useful. Small logo Griswold are great users. Yes, exactly, Jim Glathar. Am I pronouncing your name right still, or ever? You once told me that it's not Glathar. Apparently it's Glathar, or so you told me. I received the round 10-inch Lodge griddle for Christmas. It's so much fun, isn't it, though? It is a great pancake pan. I mean, it's almost as if it was made for pancakes. And of course, it's also a great kamal as well for doing tortillas. Hello, Jim F. Not to worry. As you can see, everybody is still here, and we are still in the middle of this cast iron discussion. It's been an hour, but we are still going, so not to worry there. The one you have is 7 Cobb. Yes, my cornstick pan is right here, in fact. Let me get this out. Come on. Come on. There we go. And in fact, this is my only cornstick pan. I will say that. This is a BS&R Red Mountain series cornstick pan. Let me see if I can get that right. As you can see, it's a 7S, which is pretty standard. They mark almost all of their cornstick pans in the same way, except for a few. So yeah, I only have one cornstick pan of this kind, and of course, on the other hand, I was also lucky enough to obtain the Handy Dan cornstick pan as well, which has 8 instead of 7. I am annoyed that this lens is greasy. I really got to clean that off. I think I'm going to do that immediately when this is over. Okay. Cornstick pan. Well, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are really nice as well. And considering that I might very well have kids make visiting this weekend, I should probably use it then. Small block Griswolds are just as great as unmarked Wagners. Both are awesome. Yes, they are. Lodge met in the middle and now does a six cavity cornstick pan. Really? I kind of missed that one as well. I thought Lodge was only doing their number eight wedge pan. They did redesign it so that now they have small handles instead of one long handle, but I thought they were still eight sticks. All right. My favorite pan is the first thrift store buy. A number six small block logo Griswold. Nice. It's terribly pitted, but I stripped it and reseasoned it, and it works great, pitted and all. Yes, indeed. That demonstrates as well that yes, you do not need a mirror smooth surface or glass smooth surface to cook great on cast iron. If there is a little bit of pitting, as you can see, yes, you can indeed use it. Do you have the Eddie Bauer handy, Dan? I think you're talking about the Eddie Bauer fish pan, and yes, I do. Interestingly enough, that one was acquired for me. Let me see if I remember right. A few years ago, one of the major cast iron collectors in in this online community passed away, and I don't even remember his name. I'm sorry to say, but they had an auction of his collection and it was mentioned to me, and someone asked if I would be interested in any of the pieces in that collection, and I ended up choosing the Eddie Bauer fish pan, especially because it was unusual, and so I ended up getting that, that's how I have the Eddie Bauer fish pan in my collection, even though I don't use it that long much. Ads are getting longer. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Rocket Caver. Unfortunately, Google can do what Google wants. They forced me to include ads in these live videos. And that if there was an option for me not to have ads in these live videos, then I would choose it, but there isn't. So as a result, unfortunately, we can only do what Google lets us do. Do you have any of the plus size cornstick pans? I do not, unfortunately. These are all of my cornbread pans that we have here. You know, the two round ones and the two cornstick pans here. I do not have any of the plus size ones. That is another one that I would indeed like if I ever find one of these days, such as the Red Mountain 7L cornstick pan. If I'm ever lucky enough to find one of those, I would probably grab it. Well, thank you very much, Valley S, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourself tonight. My favorite pans are my mother's. She gave me before she took the trip last April. Oh, I'm hoping took the trip. Well, regardless of what you mean by took the trip, I know that feeling as well. Yes, because I do have several pieces of cast iron that I inherited from my parents, and they are all definitely very special to me. I already mentioned the square skillet from the Griswold square skillet is one. The other is my grandmother's number eight in diamond pan. You know, the one that's believed to be the last generation of favorite skillets. I have the eight diamond skillet, and that one also came from my father's mother, so my grandmother on my father's side. BSNR made the 7L. Yes, they did. 7S, 7SS, 5S, and the 7T cornstick pans. I have not yet seen a 7SS pan in person myself. Last year, when I went to um, the National Cornbread Festival, there was a gathering of online and Facebook cast iron collectors, and several of them brought their pieces to show off. And that was when I got to see these 5S and the 7T cornstick pans. I believe I was offered to buy the 5S pan for cornstick pan for about $50, and I actually turned it down because I really did not have that much of a use for it. And well, thank you again, and not to worry about that Val's Black Cats rules. I mean, that's how it goes. You know, life is more important than YouTube. So no problem at all there. That's for sure. Made a video on them a couple of weeks ago. I'm gonna have to take another look at that, I think. Okay. Anyway, well, thank you again, Valley S, and I hope we see you again. And I have one of those Aiden diamond pans. Yeah, and those are really, really great users too. Favorite, as I found out, when it comes to cast iron quality, I would probably rank favorite right alongside Griswold in that they're extremely light, extremely smooth. They are a dream to cook with. And anyone who has a favorite pan, I mean, favorite stove pan, that is, I'm sure anyone would agree with me on that. That's for sure. All right. Did you use plus size or regular? I'm okay. Well, again, I only have one cornstick pan, and it is a regular size cornstick pan. I'm afraid you should put the other red pan with the other ones. Red pan. Oh, are you talking about the Le Creuset, perhaps? I'm keeping it here in the kitchen largely because it's enameled, and these are all of my enameled pans. So it's like I'm keeping them all in the same place so that I know where I can get them. That's at least that's the way my collection has turned out to be. I mean, I it's not like I had a definite plan when I put this collection together, especially with the way it's expanded over the past few years. But I do my best to try to organize it so I know where everything is. So yeah, I think that's really about the best I can say there. I think he means they should be on the same rack. Might end up doing that. Um, Here in the back, for instance, here in the back is my original, well, not original, but my Lodge enamel Dutch oven that I had before I acquired these USA enamel Dutch ovens. And I had promised already one of my close friends, I'm going to give this to her. I should probably give it to her this weekend or maybe on Valentine's Day or so. And then once this is gone, of course, I'll have a big space to fill up. So maybe I might be able to put this there, perhaps. There's one possibility. I'm sure I'll. I'm sure I'll find some way to fill that extra space. All right, yeah, and okay. Good night to you too, William Hurt, as well. So yeah, how to cook stovetop cornbread. I have never cooked stovetop cornbread, but I would say that it could certainly be done. You might have to cover it, or better yet, do it the way Lodge does their camp ovens. Namely, get yourself a regular cast iron Dutch oven. Heat that one up on the stovetop, and then you cook your cornbread in the cornstick pan in that. That would be one way to do it, I would think. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I think it's those mashed potatoes talking. Collections tend to start in the kitchen, then magically multiply into other rooms of the house. Boy, is that ever true. Yes, and that's why we call it cast ironitis. In that I started out with one cast iron pan, and then two, and then three, and then five. And now, 15 years later, I have this cast iron all over my house. I've got this rack here, and only around Christmas or so I expanded to this rack. So at this moment, these are the only cast iron pans I have. And then, of course, there is that rack over there in the living room, which again you can see in the thumbnail picture for this video, as well as all of the other live videos I've done over the last couple of years. Corey Clark, I found an enamel Dutch oven. It has a bad stain in all the bottom. I let it bleach soak in it overnight and it came out like new. Well, congratulations. Yes, a couple of times I did bleach my old Le Creuset pot with bleach, and it did a great job on it as well. I think it was when the bleach did not completely whiten my Le Creuset pot. That was one sign that I knew it had just about reached the end of its life because it was indeed really chipping on the inside. Mark Sieber, the Lodge cornstick pans were designed to fit in their Dutch ovens. Yes, exactly. I would say that would probably be the best way to cook cornbread on the stove top. What size skillet do you use for cornbread? I use an 8, but want to try a 7. My go to cornbread pan is, in fact, a number 7. It is a gate marked number 7. And it's only and for whatever reason I like making cornbread in that pan just about more than any other one. So yeah, the number 7 I find does a good job making cornbread because because even though it's that much smaller than the number 8, that means the cornbread comes out just that much taller. And I think it does a great job in that way. They gave me a square of cornbread with my pulled pork sandwich. It was so sweet. It was like cake. Yeah, that's about the only kind of cornbread they sell in the stores and the supermarkets these days. On the other hand, that's also the only kind of cornbread I ever ate as I was growing up. I never had savory southern cornbread until I started making it myself when I learned how to cook. So I never experienced the old fashioned cornbread. But also because I grew up with that sweet cornbread. That is still my preferred cornbread. And when I make cornbread for myself, yes, I do indeed go for a sweet cornbread. Maybe it's because I'm a Yankee. Strong's Adventures. We bought so much a year ago at the lodge store that then got home and life happened, and I still don't know what all we got. Oh yeah, yeah. That's definitely a sign of cast ironitis as well. I might suggest, make it a weekend project. Basically catalog it or at least identify it in some way. And then you can determine whether or not you might want to get rid of some of it. And I'm being serious there. I mean, I indeed do want to trim down my collection. I've got a give it away pile. And I'm thinking as well, I said this last year and I never did, but I do want to set up at least a 1 day flea market booth and sell some of my extra pieces. Yeah, is the pan okay? Number 7 is my favorite for cornbread. Yeah, it does seem to be about the right size, and it's certainly worth it, at least for that reason. Um, I do have, it turns out I have at least 3 number 7s now, or maybe a fourth one. No, that was a number 6, that BSNR I found at Brimfield last year. But I have my gate marked number 7. I have my handwritten number 7, the one that I call Lightning. That's a BSNR number 7. And I have the BSNR 7S skillet, which is a slightly even smaller. And I think those are all my number 7s at this moment, although I may want to check that. All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I tried that and did really good, but it took all my earning. I took all my earnings and bought more. Yeah, I know that feeling all too well as well. It's like I go on vacations to things like the National Cornbread Festival and telling myself I'm not going to get any more cast iron. And what happens? I end up getting more cast iron. Happens every time. So last year, for instance, I was determined not to expand my collection and I ended up expanding my collection. Heck, like I said, just today I bought yet another piece of cast iron. So yeah, and that's why they call it cast ironitis. That's for sure. Although I am looking forward to doing a little unboxing review of this particular pan. I'm hoping to have that in the next couple of days as well. Tried that and did a really good. Oh yes, exactly. All right. Whew, I'd say we're starting to get on here. Yeah, because I'm starting to see some silent moments here instead of me just talking and talking and talking. Anyway, Joe Moore, hello, nice to see you. I recently bought a national number 8 skillet with the tag on it, and it was said between 1891 to 1914. My understanding is that Wagner did make the national skillet. Uh, I'm not sure if it's that old. I might want to ask if you could provide a photo of it. One clue, of course, is does it have a heat ring on the bottom of the pan? I mean, does it have an edge on the bottom or is it rounded? If it has an edge on the bottom, that would probably indicate that it is indeed vintage or more vintage, I should say. My number 7s are a BSNR, Chicago Housewares, and 2 Wagners. Well, those are nice, Judy W. I do hope you're getting a lot of use out of them. Me too. Yeah, I get that. Cynthia Strong's. I'm weak. Yeah, so am I. I really have to keep my collection under control. But as I said, that's why I am determined to get rid of at least a few pieces. I'm going to give away this Lodge Dutch oven. I have a Lodge Made in America skillet that I do intend on giving away as well this year. I'm not sure if I'm going to do another giveaway video or if something else comes up. So I do have a few pans I'm going to get rid of. It's things like this that I hope help me to convince myself that I'm not a hoarder. But then again, I did post a picture just, I think it was yesterday, on my Facebook of somebody else's cast iron collection that puts mine to shame and kind of makes me feel a little better about my collection. Did I hear Dutch oven? Oh, yeah, I mentioned already. I have a Lodge enamel Dutch oven back here that I am going to be giving to a close friend probably within the next week or so. What are your thoughts on Burrow Furnace and Nest? Both of those, as my understanding, those companies are producing cast iron as art, meaning that they are handmade. Well, I'm not sure about Nest, but they're handmade. Burrow Furnace definitely makes theirs by hand. So as a result, they're incredibly expensive and always will be because they're made by hand. And that's perfectly fine. They can charge whatever price they want for it. I only recently realized that the Burrow Furnace Foundry is only a couple of towns over from me. It's well within driving distance. I am going to have to visit there one of these days. Um, when Burrow Furnace had their original startup, their crowdfunding, do I have it here? Where did it go? I could have sworn I had it here. Anyway, when they had their crowdfunding initial fundraiser, I actually donated about $30 to it, and they sent me a cast iron bottle opener, which I do have, and I could have sworn I had it right here. Here it is. A Burrow Furnace cast iron bottle opener, which, yes, I do actually use. As I said, they sent this to me as a thank you for donating in their original crowdfunding. So, yeah. So, what do I think of them? My understanding is, as I said, their cast iron looks very nice, and again, it's all made by hand. And from my understanding is they are also making enameled cast iron, and more power to them. So, but I really have not experienced any of their cast iron myself, so I really have very little, real little I can say about that. Other than, as I said, I would like to go and visit their foundry because it's in my area of New York, because it's well within driving distance, and I definitely would like to go and take a look. I've been wanting a honey badger. I've been wanting a Burrow Furnace enamel Dutch oven forever. I'm going to have to keep that in mind as well. Who knows? Maybe they have a factory outlet, perhaps. But who knows? Okay, I got one of those number sevens, one of my faves now. Yes, exactly. Oh, let me know how the foundry is. As soon as I go there, I will definitely do so. I'm suspecting this is another one of those things I should probably do after the weather gets warmer. I mean, for all I know, maybe they shut down for the winter, perhaps. I do not know. I know nothing about their business other than the fact that, again, they do it all by hand. So it's not like they're a big, huge mass production company. I just texted you a couple of pictures. Okay. Okay. You won't be disappointed in the Canadian stuff. Yeah, I mentioned already. I gave away my Canadian made skillet as a Christmas present to one of my family members this last month on Christmas. Not that I was disappointed with the pan or anything like that. It's only that I barely ever used it. It had been 3 years since I was lucky enough to acquire that Eaton Canadian made skillet for $5 at a flea market. It sat on my rack, and I think I used it maybe twice or so over the course of 3 years. And so I finally decided to give it away as a Christmas present for that, especially for that reason. Right. Little kids probably will tie you up if they met you. Oh yeah, that sounds interesting. My only national is also my only number nine. Well, nice, Judy W. Again, I hope you get some good use out of it. I mean, a number nine skillet is not a common skillet to have. So I would definitely say take pride in it and use it and show it off. I got one of the enamel Dutch ovens from Burrow through their Kickstarter champagne or campaign. I love it. Oh, nice. That means you must have had it for several years then. And well, again, congratulations on that, Patsy. No hype 1244. It was a steal. I'm not going to deny that. That was the main reason I picked it up. I was not going to say no on a vintage cast iron pan for $5. It was excellent quality too. It was thick and heavy, but it was excellent quality. It's only that I have so many number eight skillets in my collection. I have at least 15 of them. It's hard to go through them all. And so as a result, that particular Eton skillet just happened to like fall through the cracks. And that's why I decided to just give it away as a Christmas present. So all right, I only have one number nine, Martin Stove and Range dust collector. Well, that's also nice. Well, in that case, how about this? Commit yourself to getting it out of dust and make and cook something with it. Does seasoning iron on stovetop work? Yes, it can work. I have done it sometimes. It does produce a lot of smoke, and it does have require more effort than seasoning it in the stove. So, well, yes, you can season it on the stovetop, but really for convenience, just simply seasoning it in the oven works just fine. I like my nines. It seems to be most Canadians I have are size nine. Yeah, just last fall, I acquired that Wapak number nine, so I'm quite happy with that as well. I have a number nine aluminum drip drop roaster before they put Magnalite name on the pot. Well, that's also great, Corey Clark. That's a really good score. And once again, I hope you get a lot of use out of it because I've said enough times I love my Magnalite Dutch oven. So. All right. My only number nines are my only Griswolds, pan and Dutch oven. Yeah, a lot of us seem to say that. My number nine is my only this, my only that. My number nine might be my only Wapak other than my iron, my sad iron. All right, that Wagner nine you restored. Oh yeah, my Wagner chicken fryer, which is another thing I need to get out and start using again. All right. Okay, and hello, Jacubus. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Okay, big question. Lye tank, vinegar bath, easy off oven cleaner, or a sandblast cabinet? And go chat. Okay, well, for me, that's easy. Lye tank all the way. I mean, only because I'm lazy. I mean, with a lye tank, you can throw cast iron pieces in there, set it, and forget it. And then take them out months later because you forgot about them, or because that's certainly why, because I forgot about them. And lo and behold, they're almost always as good as new that way. So definitely the lye tank for me. It requires the least amount of effort. I have way too much Le Creuset and Stowe, but my favorite Dutch ovens. And yeah, well, again, go ahead and continue using them. I regret, even though it was $400, I kind of regret not getting the Le Creuset Han Solo in carbonite Dutch oven. But it's too late now. So all right, my friend up towards Shreveport has lots of gate marks, and he's trading me off, but he gives me stuff a lot too. Then that sounds like a good relationship. I don't know why vinegar never works for me. It can be hit or miss. I have a couple of pieces that I did actually do a good job cleaning them off in vinegar, but yeah, I mean, given the choice, as I said, I think I would prefer the lye bath. If I find one that's heavily rusted underneath, then I might indeed soak it in lye overnight. All right. Okay. Okay, and who is this contact? All right, I think we are getting on to that time because it's 25 past 9. We've been doing this for almost an hour and a half. And I mean, well, I love these conversations. I really could keep going, but as I say, after all, it is a work night. Number one, it is a Wednesday night. You use lye first and vinegar to remove rust. Yes, exactly. But I do believe it's probably about time to be heading on at this point because again, we all have to get through the rest of the week. Whew. And once again, Valentine's Day is a week from Friday. So we're talking like only a week, 2 weeks, 2 days from now is Friday. And then in one more week, it's Valentine's Day. So at least some of us have some preparations to do. If not Valentine's Day cooking, then other Valentine's Day preparations. Some of which maybe we can't mention here on the internet. But yes, a couple of Harry Potter Le Creuset pieces. They're tripled in value. Yes, exactly, Honey Badger. It's things like that. So I mean, really, if you really want to resell, you've got yourself a good score there. Stove is heavier, but better than the big ones to be in Le Creuset. Are you expecting snow tonight? Here, no. I understand there's this huge, massive snowstorm hitting the southern or midwestern United States, but we've been lucky so far here in mid-state New York in that we are expected to get some rain tomorrow, but the temperature is supposed to get up to the 40s. It'll get colder again this weekend, but at this moment, I am not seeing any heavy snowfall forecast, so that's good. So, and I can only hope it's the same way for everybody, because getting through the winter, of course, certainly is a priority for everybody. And I can only hope everybody is doing well. And having said that, as I said, I do believe we are at about this time here. A lot of ice tonight. Well, do be careful. And I hope the ice doesn't do any damage like the power lines or the like. It's 80 plus here, Cynthia Wesley. Well, lucky you. Shit. It's supposed to be close to 90 Saturday. Well, thanks a lot, Hog Wild. Okay, and June, what kind of things can you do at the Cornbread Festival? Well, the National Cornbread Festival is really an excuse to hold a big street festival. You know, the kind when your town gets together and cordons off a section of town and brings in all of the food carts and the carny booths and all of that. Except that with the National Cornbread Festival, they really, really do it big. I mean, it's basically a big street festival that takes up the most of the whole town. And because it's so popular, they get some really, really good stuff there. They don't just have street vendors; they have wonderful wonderful food vendors, really outstanding food vendors. They've got a carnival, and of course, they've got Lodge Cast Iron as well, sponsoring the whole thing and having their national cornbread cook-off, and with lots of giveaways and contests and all kinds of things like that. So it is really definitely worth going to. I use it as an excuse to go on a road trip myself. Someone mentioned sweet cornbread. Trader Joe's has a gluten-free cornbread mix. Yes, exactly. So it's a fantastic cornbread, gluten-free or no. All right. Okay. Do the snow missed you all too? Oh yeah. Okay. Do you know anything about Rowoco or Rawoco? I know absolutely nothing about it. I've never even heard of the brand. I'm sorry to say. Sorry about that, Bob the Builder. But as I said, I do believe it's time, I guess, to call this a night here because, again, I've got to get to bed, as do a lot of people here. And again, we can always look forward to the weekend. And besides, I want to use this new cast iron pan and see how this turns out. I'm not expecting anything really high quality, but who knows? All right, but thank you very much then to everybody though who has been kind enough here to show up here tonight. As I've said enough times, it's you folks here who make these YouTube live videos so much fun. And I'm really glad to see a lot of regular folks here who are kind enough to show up here each week. Like Val's Black Cats Rule and Hog Wild Cast Iron Restoration and William Hurt and newer names as well, like Kevin Brown and Joe Moore and Greg Hart. And no, I've seen you before, Greg Hart and Jim Glatthar. Yeah, well, yeah, I like the varied topics. That's kind of why we do these discussions here at the first of each month, and I'm very happy about that. And I'm really happy that you folks seem to enjoy it as well because I want to keep doing this for a while. I mean, after all, it's been 4.5 years, and I certainly want to keep going because these are a lot of fun. This is a great hobby in itself. I mean, the cast iron cooking is fun. The collecting is fun. These YouTube videos are fun, and I'm really glad to do it especially for that reason. You folks here make it all a lot of fun. So thank you to everybody who has been kind enough to be here tonight, because we are, and we're wrapping this up now, and we're all going to have to just do it all over again next week. So thank you to everybody. Like Lando Calrissian, for instance. You think it would be a waste to buy a cast iron Lodge pizza pan since I already own a pizza stone? No. The pizza stone can break. The cast iron pizza pan almost certainly will not break. On the other hand, if you have a number 12 or a number 14 cast iron skillet, you already have a cast iron pizza pan. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, thank you so much to everybody, and thank you for being here. And as always, I'll close it up with one of my favorite quotes from 2001: A Space Odyssey. See you next Wednesday.